Okay, I want to welcome you all to Classic Riffs to impress your friends and dismay your enemies. Glad to see you all today. This is the first time I've done a free workshop like this. I teach groups on Zoom a lot, but I've never just opened it up to my mailing list and done it for free before. And I had no idea if we would get 5 people today or 50 people today or no one today. So anyway, I am delighted to see you all. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while, and I really think you're going to enjoy these riffs. It's really fun to just learn something kind of quickly that sounds great. And so we'll get to it in a second. I want to thank you all, especially for showing up here on a Sunday. I normally don't teach on Sundays. I hope I didn't make you play hooky from church. I know I need all the brownie points I can get from the guy upstairs, so hopefully I didn't get anyone else in trouble with them either. And but you know, I went to the fair with my kids yesterday, and that frankly was more important. And they had a blast. Aside from my son Leo, bless his heart, who has a nervous system that's jacked up to 11. I wonder where he gets that from. We went on the Ferris wheel together, and he barfed his whole his whole blue raspberry icy into the footwell of the Ferris wheel. So neither he nor the carny running the Ferris wheel had a great time during that ride. But overall, it was a smashing success. So thanks for showing up here on a Sunday. And yeah, let me tell you a little bit about what you're going to learn. I have put together, I don't know, what was it, 6 or 8 riffs that I think every guitarist should know. And they're the classic riffs from a variety of genres, kind of leaning toward classic rock because that was the era of great guitar riffs, frankly. They should be accessible from a variety of skill levels. So if you're a beginner who's just starting to learn your first few chords, it may be a little overwhelming at times, but just be patient with yourself, and I'll try to give you like easier versions of some of these riffs to work on. And hopefully you'll get to soak up some vibes too from other guitarists. I think it's just nice to hang out with other guitarists, and I don't know, I find it inspiring. So hang in there if you're a total beginner. If you're really advanced and you find some of these riffs pretty easy, I'm hoping to throw in some tidbits here and there that really a guitarist of any skill level can benefit from, because a lot of the principles I teach are one of these minute to learn, lifetime to master kind of principles and skills. So keep your ears peeled. I'm sure you'll come away with some valuable stuff today. Okay. Before I start teaching riffs, first of all, Claire, can you hear me okay? Is everything working?
I can hear you fantastically.
Beautiful. Okay. And this reminds me, before I start, some of you don't know Claire. So Claire is my wonderful big sister. We have been friends forever, and close friends, as well as siblings. And now I have the great joy of being able to work with one of my best friends and most wonderful people in my life. So anyway, Claire helps me manage my Q&As that I do twice a month, which are a lot like what we're going to do today. Those are for members of Heartwood Guitar. And she does a lot of the admin stuff around the business. So thank you, Claire, for helping me out with this again. And she's just a bright, shining light in my life and my business. Speaking of Claire, especially because we have a fairly big crowd today, if you have a question or comment, please put it in the chat box. You should see that at the bottom of your window. And what Claire will do is moderate those comments and questions, sometimes share the comments, but mostly she's picking out the questions, and then kind of at the end of each part of my presentation, she will share your questions with me. And sometimes I'll ask you to follow up, turn your mic on, and kind of explain more in your own words. I love interacting with people. But anyway, Claire does the first level of moderation just to kind of keep things snappy. Okay, and please keep your mic off unless you've been asked to speak in general. Okay. So before we jump into our first riff, I just want to introduce a strategy for learning these. And this is a strategy that total beginners all the way up to pros use to learn difficult music, okay? I use these strategies for challenging music I learn. So does Joe Satriani. So does the person who just picked up their guitar yesterday, hopefully. And I summarize this strategy. They're basically two tools you have in your toolbox for learning difficult material. One of them is to slow down, and the other one is to simplify. And I have this wonderful member of Heartwood Guitar, longtime member Joel Klein, who took a printing class, and for like a little printing project, he made this sign for me. Isn't that sweet? Slow down and simplify. And I realized after he made this that that's not only a principle for guitar, but kind of a good like mantra for life, right? So anyway, I love this gift. And what this means is slow down is kind of obvious, but is a difficult skill to apply and practice, believe it or not. Slowing down means just playing something at a lot slower tempo, or even when you're first learning a difficult piece, you throw out tempo altogether. And you go through a process called just finding the notes. So you just see where the first note is, don't worry about the rhythm. See where the next note is, don't worry about the rhythm. That's kind of the first stage. But then when you start trying to play it in rhythm, play it really slow. And then the other one is to simplify. And this is a more complex concept. But you can think of it, you know, a lot of the stuff we do when we're playing guitar in terms of simplifying is just focus on one hand. And so like if your fretting hand is doing something difficult, make your strumming or picking hand like do the easiest thing possible in order to train the other hand, okay? Do something that you can just do on autopilot. Likewise, if you're training yourself to like pick a certain string on guitar, don't be distracting yourself by doing something difficult with your fretting hand. Make it dead simple. So like classic example, learning a new strum pattern, grab a simple chord or just damp the strings if that's easy for you. Sometimes damping the strings is even difficult. But just like, you know, grab an E minor chord, something really easy for you to grab so that you can set it and forget it with one hand and just put 100% of your focus into the difficult skill you're working on. The brain can only focus on one difficult thing at a time. We are not born to multitask. And so don't make things harder for yourself by distracting yourself from the task at hand. Okay, I'll show you how to put that into practice in our first riff, which is Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple. This is the first riff I often teach students right when they start working with me, although I teach them a simpler version, which I will show you also. Claire, before I start teaching, anything I should know about in the chat?
No, just to let people know that in case you did not print up or you don't have on your computer the Classic Riffs worksheet, it is in the chat.
All right. So I'm going to use my electric guitar for some of these just because I think it sounds cool. There's a benefit for me doing acoustic since a lot of you people are playing acoustic at home. So I'll probably switch to that too, especially if I'm talking about how to get like good tone out of your acoustic or other acoustic specific advice. But I think it's kind of fun to hear the song kind of more or less the way it was played originally too. So just for entertainment's sake, I'm going to lean toward electric guitar for some of these riffs. So let me crank it up here. No point in playing Smoke on the Water quiet. Okay, here we go. So there's Smoke on the Water. And what I'd like you to do first is, okay, first of all, if you're looking at the tablature and it looks like Greek to you, you don't know how to read tablature, don't worry. My approach to teaching all this stuff is going to be to do it by ear and by eyes. So the tablature is just there to support you if you know how to read it and find it helpful. And so what I'd like you to do is, first of all, get your hand in a good position to hit the 2 strings that you'll be playing for this entire riff. You're going to be playing the 4th and 3rd strings, which are like the 2 middle strings on the guitar. And because we're not moving around a lot on this riff, we can more or less park our picking hand in one spot and just leave it there. Set it and forget it. So here, let me see if I can, give me just a second. Got a little keypad that allows me to change camera angles quickly. And is it going to cooperate today? Come on, Stream Deck. Okay, I'm going to do it manually. Just a second. There we go. Okay, so what I want you to do is take your picking hand. For most of you, it's right hand. And you're going to put this part of your hand, the kind of the heel of your palm, right around the ulnar side of your hand. I had a surgeon I worked with, and she thought that if I used the term ulnar instead of karate chop, that I could make more money with my lessons. So we're going to call it the ulnar part of the hand, and it's like right here. You're going to stick that on the 6th string part of the bridge right there. So on your acoustic guitar, there'll be a 6-string bridge pin, a white pin right there. So just park that part of your palm right there. And this is one of many techniques that I call brushing. And these are techniques to help orient your picking hand. The hardest thing about playing guitar, I think, is hitting the right string. And so we have all these subtle techniques that we use to help our hand know where it is in space. It's called proprioception. We help our proprioception by basically touching the guitar with our picking hand so that it kind of knows where it is. And this is the simplest way to start brushing. You put your palm right there, maybe a little bit farther down since we're hitting the middle strings here. So I've just got my palm right about here. You don't want to touch the strings with that part of your palm because that'll damp them. You don't want to do that. You want to have it just back far enough so that you're not touching the strings. And also, you don't want to be pressing hard. I call this term brushing because when you're doing, like when you're moving around to different strings, your hand's kind of moving back and forth gently across the guitar. You're not like pushing hard against your guitar as you're doing that. That creates tension and it limits your hand motion. You want a gentle touch. You want your hand to be pressing as hard as it would press, like, you know, if you were like wiping something off a baby's cheek, okay? It should be very gentle on the guitar. That will help keep your body relaxed, which is hard to do when you're trying a new movement. Our tendency is to tense up. So just a light touch on that bridge. And then what I want you to do is slot your pick between your 5th and 4th strings. And I want you to give those 2 strings a nice swipe like this. Like you're flicking a black widow off your knee. Like, yeah! Get that thing off. Really nice and quick and kind of hard. Not this hard. That was a little too hard, but pretty firm. Okay, those sounded exactly the same, but I felt that I was picking too hard the first time. Hear how aggressive that sound is? So whether you're on acoustic or electric, pick kind of hard and fast enough so that you get this burst of sound. And what I want you to do is every time you pick the strings, come back and try to slot that pick back in between the 5th and 4th strings. Like that. And if you're not getting the strings to damp every time you bring your hand down, don't worry. That's mostly a fretting hand thing. So if it kind of sounds like that, that's okay right now. We won't worry about that. The important thing is a burst of sound and getting that pick to slot back in here. That will set you up for success. And it's so much easier than trying to go like this. If you don't have your palm down here and you're not slotting that pick, then you're like trying to land a plane in the dark in heavy fog with no lights on the runway. It's your pick is not going to know where to go. You're going to be hitting different strings all over the place. So slot that pick, keep your palm lightly resting on the bridge. So practice that a bunch. Lots of these. And now we'll move on to the left hand. And by the way, did you see what I did there? That was simplifying. We just focused on the left hand. We didn't even care about focused on the picking hand. We didn't care about what the fretting hand was doing there. We just forgot about it. Just focus on one difficult thing at a time.
Rob, you have
any questions yet?
Funny you should ask. There is one from Jenny. She's asking, are you picking both the fifth and the fourth strings? It's actually the fourth and the third strings, Jenny. So thanks for asking. We can double check that we're talking about the same strings by me playing the fourth string here. That's a D note. That should be your fourth string. And the third string. That's your G note. So those two strings together. By the way, I should mention, while I build this class as showing the real way to play this, in some tabs, you will see the first little inverted power chord that we're playing here, fretted on the fifth and fourth strings, fifth fret. That may be actually how the riff was originally played, but I find it easier to play it this other way, and it sounds almost exactly the same. So I'm making an executive decision to teach that first power chord with open fourth and third strings. So, let me know if that bothers you in the comments. I don't think it'll bother anyone. Okay. Any other questions, Claire? No, you're good.
All right. Let's switch to the left hand. What I'm going to do now is, some of you are probably advanced enough to be off and running, reading the tablature at this point. And if so, great. And what I'm going to do is loop this tablature. And if you're a more advanced student, you may be able to just start practicing this with me once I give a few more tips here. If not, I'm going to be calling out the fret numbers, and I want those of you who would feel left behind normally during that exercise, I want you to listen to the pattern of fret numbers I chant and memorize the pattern of frets. That will give you one less thing to worry about as you learn this riff, okay? So just briefly, before I do that, the way I recommend you fret this is just by barring with your pointer finger. So like this, that's the first power chord, open, and then you're going to come up to the third fret here and just bar with your pointer finger, spanning the fourth and third strings. If you find that difficult, use the tips of your first and second fingers, which are your pointer and middle fingers, like that. That works fine too. But I think a lot of people will find it a little easier just to like gorilla grab these power chords like that. And if you're more advanced and you want to use multiple fingers, go for it. There's enough pauses in between these to really not need to use multiple fingers, though. I think one finger works fine for this, of anyone, of any skill level. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is play this riff about 8 times slowly and call out the fret numbers. And again, if you can't keep up with me, just listen to me saying the fret numbers and then try saying it along with me once you think you've got the pattern. Okay, let's hear. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Open 3, 5. Open 3, 6, 5. Open 3, 5, 3. Open 0, 3, 5. 0, 3, 6, 5. 0, 3, 5, 3, 0. 0, 3, 5. 0, 3, 6, 5. 0, 3, 5, 3, 0. 0, 3, 5. 0, 3, 6, 5. 0, 3, 5, 3, 0. 4 more times. 0, 3, 5. 0, 3, 6, 5. 0, 3, 5, 3, 0. 0, 3, 5. 0, 3, 6, 5. 0, 3, 5, 3, 0. 2 more times. 0, 3, 5. 0, 3, 6, 5. 0, 3, 5, 3, 0. 0, 3, 5. 0, 3, 6, 5. 0, 3, 5, 3, 0. All right. How'd that go? Feel good?
Rob
Awesome.
Michael has a comment.
Yeah?
He said he's finding it a little difficult to pick both strings at the same time.
Yes. Yes. Focus on the right hand, definitely. Make sure you're not doing anything with the left hand, assuming you're right-handed. And the best advice I can give is make sure you're slotting that pick. And then the movement, if I give it like a slow motion replay, John Madden style, it's like this. You're kind of tracing a capital J in the air from this angle. See how I'm going like down and then curving out like that? It's a complex motion. It's not surprising that a lot of people have trouble with this motion. You can also kind of think of it really as just a diagonal motion, and you're like pushing down into that fourth string and then popping the pick off at an angle. Boom. If you push down hard enough and then just go wham out like that in a diagonal line, it should catch both strings and strike them almost simultaneously. If you're just getting one string, your pick is coming out too perpendicular to the guitar, and if you're hitting too many strings, you're going down too much in that direction. It should be more like that direction instead of here or here. And just make sure you're pushing nice and hard, and so that it's not just like bouncing off the fourth string and not catching the third, excuse me. Not catching the third. Okay. Any other questions? Claire, we good?
Rob, Jenny's got one. She said, what are your thoughts about using your third finger to grab the fourth and the pick on the third?
Oh, yeah, Jenny, I think you have the string numbers mixed up. My gosh, there are so many number systems in music. It's so hard to keep track of everything. I think you mean pick on the fourth and middle finger on the third. I love that idea. That's called hybrid picking. Gosh, to my ears, that sounds just as good. I think it's actually harder to get that to sound good for a lot of people than just using a pick, because it's hard to balance the volume of your the two notes when you're using these two different techniques. It's called hybrid picking. It's used in like Stairway to Heaven to like pinch those notes. Yeah, great technique. If you can get it to sound good, go for it. Totally. There are so many different ways to play guitar. You know, there are great guitarists who, there's a gypsy jazz guitarist who famously had this horrible burn accident and could only use 2 of his fingers. And he was a fantastic guitarist. There's all sorts of weird and wacky ways people play guitar. So, I teach like the way most people play, but if you come up with some other angle that sounds good to you and feels good and matches your body, which is another important thing, go for it. Trust your instincts. Anything else, Claire?
Yes, Frank is wondering if you have any thoughts on muting the other strings.
Yes. Thank you so much for asking, Frank. This is one of a few things I'll go over quickly here to kind of level up your playing of this riff, okay? And I know I'm taking a while on this first riff, but I'm teaching some principles that will apply to everything we learned today. And this is one of them. So there are all these techniques that guitarists use to damp unwanted strings, which really frees you up to be a little more cavalier with your picking hand. You know how I said, I think the hardest thing about playing guitar is hitting the right string? Well, you can stack the odds in your favor by having safety nets set up with the way you're damping unwanted strings, so that if you do decide to improvise, meaning you hit the wrong string, all you will get is an inaudible click. Like, right there, I actually hit the second string too. But because my my pointer finger was damping the second string, nobody heard it, right? So good guitarists are constantly doing this to kind of set themselves up for success. So the bad news is, one of the drawbacks of playing these first notes open is that you have to use a slightly different technique to damp the treble strings and also the 5th string when you start out here. So one of the reasons why I changed the riff from what I see in tabs online a lot with this is that I don't think a lot of beginners are really at the point where they're doing a lot of fretting hand damping. And so that wasn't as much an issue. And it's just easier to go from that to grabbing the 3rd fret for a lot of beginners. But so if you want to fret your first notes on the 5th and 4th strings, 5th fret, you can use the technique I'm about to describe for every power chord in the riff. But assuming you're doing it open, what you would want to do is put your fingertips of your fretting hand lightly on the 1st and 2nd strings so that they're damped. And then, if you want to go through the treble, you could also wrap your thumb around and damp the 6th and 5th strings. However, once you get this slotting the pick in between the strings technique down, hitting the 5th string is not as much of a danger for most people. So I would just kind of ignore the bass strings for this first riff. But do as you see fit. Just all this damping is going to take a little bit of time and mental power. And when you're playing the riff at full speed, you may not have time to set this up. But do what you need to do to damp these strings. And then once we get into the meat of the rest of the riff, what you're going to do is this. With your pointer finger, when you're barring the 4th and 3rd strings, you want to create a little dip in your pointer finger. See how there's just a little, let's see here. Where's my angle? Yeah. See that dip in my finger here? You want to bend your knuckle back a little bit like that, if possible. Some people's fingers don't like to do that. So that you're fretting 4th and 3rd strings, but then the 2nd and 1st strings are damped. Okay? Try not to bar that 2nd string too. Then you've got... That doesn't sound quite right. So yeah, just a little dip in your finger. That's the hardest damping technique in this. An easier one, and one that I encourage everyone to do right away, is when you fret, have the tip of your pointer finger, or whatever finger you're using, lightly against the 4th string. Against the 5th string. So that you get a little click like that when you hit it. That will damp the 5th string, And then you can wrap your thumb around the top of the guitar and damp the 6th string. And I would keep your thumb there the whole time. So you go, see how my thumb is just staying on that 6th string? Don't fret like that, even though it sounds kind of good with that chord. It won't sound good with this chord, right? So don't fret it, just lean it against the string enough to damp it. So that thumb travels around the neck, constantly lightly pressing against the 6th string, and that is a technique you will use for the rest of your life playing guitar. It's very common. You just kind of have that thumb parked there to control that 6th string. You do it when you play a D chord, an A chord, a C chord. Just keep that thumb around the top. Now, if your guitar neck is too wide, especially if you're playing like classical guitar, or your hand is too small to make that comfortable, then you don't need to worry about it. Maybe look for a guitar with a narrower neck. It really does make things easier in a lot of ways. Claire, any other questions?
Yes, Michael is wondering if a thick pick is better or worse.
Oh, good. So neither better nor worse. Think of thin picks, especially really thin picks, as being kind of like training wheels for guitar. They enable you to put a death grip on the pick without like breaking your strings and sounding super obnoxious when you strum. And that death grip is advantageous because it keeps the pick from flying out of your hand. As you get better at guitar, it tends to be better to graduate to at least medium thickness picks, which is around like 0.7 millimeters. All the way up to like the maximum thickness is usually around 1 millimeter for a heavy pick. I use 0.88. That's kind of my happy place. There's a little bit of give to them, but they're pretty rigid. Those will tend to give you better tone because the thin picks have a clickety-clackety sound, and but they're harder to hold on to. They also give you more control if you're like shredding, if you're playing really fast. So the really fast guitarists often prefer even like, I don't know, 1.5 or 2 millimeter picks that have like really no flex in them because it gives them maximum control. I hate those picks, but anyway, some people like them. So it's mostly an issue of tone. With this particular riff, I don't think it's hard to hold on to your pick as much. You can kind of put a death grip on your pick when you're playing this riff and it works just fine. It's more when you're strumming that it's harder to hold on to. So I would say a heavy pick would probably be fine for people of any skill level and will probably give you a little bit better control and tone. So yeah, come to think of it, I think a heavy pick is fine. But if you're a beginner, it's probably going to make you miserable as soon as you start strumming. So I would switch to a medium or light until you can control that pick in your hand. And you want to let it kind of flutter between your fingers, which is a long time learning. That takes a long time to develop. Any other questions, Claire?
No, all good.
All right. So yeah, left hand or fretting hand damping is one technique I wanted to talk about. Also, damping the strings you are playing is also a key part in getting this riff to take it from good to great. Without damping the strings you're playing, without basically honoring those rests that you see in the tablature, if you know what a rest is, it would sound like this. Instead of this. The second example sounds a little more jaunty, right? It sounds more like the original. So how do you do that? I actually use two different techniques at the same time to do this. So I'm going to just tell you about both of them and you can decide which one works best. Probably the technique that'll work best for you is your fretting hand damping. So let's go over that. What you're going to do is play that first open power chord and then just bring your fretting hand down on the strings lightly like this. And then bring your hand down too so that your pointer finger lands right around where the 3rd fret is. Then you're set up for success to grab the next one. Let me focus in here. See that? My pointer finger is right where it should be. And then after you play that, when it's time to damp it, just release pressure with your pointer finger. And if you can coordinate it, this is more complicated, but just a habit I have. I bring my other fingers down on the strings too. So like this. See that? I'm simultaneously releasing pressure with my pointer finger, not lifting it off the strings, just stopping squeezing. See that? And then bringing the other fingers down just as I said before, a safety net. Just in case I don't completely damp them with that technique, I bring my other fingers down and that ensures that I get a nice crisp damp. Like that. And then same thing here. Hand down, release pressure and down. This one up here, the 6th fret, you don't do any damping. And then you just slide right back down there. Damp, 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 damp. At the end there. And then my right hand is, as I'm bringing the pick down on the strings, the pick resting against the 4th string is damping the strings, and also my pointer finger, the way it's Sichumified, this is how I, there we go. This is how I hold my pick here. That pointer finger is like running right along the length of the pick down toward the tip, and it just fits perfectly in between the 4th and 3rd strings. And so the back of it, or kind of the side of it, is pressed up against the 3rd string, the G string, damping that one. So the finger slides in and damps the strings, and the pick is also sitting on top of the 4th string, damping the strings. So I can do no left hand damping and still just damp with my right hand if I want. So that's another damping technique. And then finally, if you know how to do some vibrato, throw some vibrato on those long notes. I won't teach vibrato in this workshop. It's kind of a more advanced technique, but if you know how to waggle those strings a little, that can give it a little extra flair. Okay, any other questions, Claire, before we move on?
All good.
All right, cool. Well, let's switch to some country rock. Let's do Already Gone. Here's what it sounds like. Well, I heard some people talking just the other day. Said you were gonna put me on the shelf. I got kind of carried away there. I used to play that song in high school. I loved playing that with my buddy Justin. We had a little graduation party and we played it in his backyard at his parents' house. Good memories. I want to teach you this because it's a relatively easy and fun riff. It teaches you slides and bends in kind of a not so threatening way. And it also teaches you, I'm going to throw in just a little bit of music theory here that I hope you will appreciate. Yes, appreciate music theory. It is possible. So here's how it goes. What I want you to do is start on the 6th string, 3rd fret. Grab that note and play it and make sure it sounds like mine. You're going to use your pointer finger for this. And then use your ring finger on the fifth string, fifth fret, sixth string. So we're just going to go up 2 frets with your ring finger, play that note, and then you're going to slide it up 2 frets. Like this. And as you're getting used to this, it's easy to overshoot or undershoot. It just takes a while. And if I could offer you a little suggestion, let me see if I do this when I do it naturally. Okay, no, I don't. Because I want to get my hand up in position to do the other stuff. Okay, I was going to say, this still might be useful for some of you. Often, when you're doing slides like this, it helps to have your thumb anchored on the back of the neck and just pivot off it like this. Sorry, here, let me do this angle. See how my thumb's just like, it's twisting a little bit, but it's basically staying in the same part of the neck. This is what it looks like from this angle. See that? So that can help you to control how far you go in your slide. Now, when I watched myself do this riff that I've done a billion times in the past, I actually don't use that pivot technique. I don't know if it's some vestigial bad technique that's left over from, the Wild West days of me learning guitar, sitting on the floor of my bedroom listening to Led Zeppelin tapes. I don't know. But I'll often use this technique with slides, but for whatever reason I don't in this case. I think it's because I need to get my hand up in position, in fifth position up here to do the rest of the riff. But if you find it really helpful to pivot off that thumb, go for it. And then you can pop up your thumb afterwards to have it in a more comfortable position for the rest of the notes. Okay, so however you do it, play the 6th string 3rd fret, slide up like that, and you want to do just a quick movement, keeping pressure on the string so that it continues to ring as you go from 5 to 7. If you find that movement difficult, keep in mind a clean hand can help, so wash your hands so they're not like too sticky. A clean guitar neck can help. Newer strings that aren't rusty, that creates more friction. There's also a product called, Fretboard Ease. It's a little like spray thing that lubricates your strings. That can help you do slides. Also, just having calluses puts a little bit of Teflon on your fingertips. So if your fingertips don't have calluses on them yet, they're going to have more friction too, and they're going to hurt. Sorry. Okay, so you do that slide, and then you pop up to the 5th string, 5th fret, fret that note, and then do a little bend with your ring finger on the 7th fret, like that. And it's just a little, like, what do we have in the tabs? A half step bend. Yep. So you're just going to bend the note enough to get it to sound like the 5th string, 8th fret note. And so the way you do that is, let's hear. So you just played that note. After you play the 5th string, 5th fret note, bring your other 2 fingers down on the fretboard like this. And then what you're going to do is with all 3 fingers, pull that string down toward the floor and then release it. Little harder to do on the acoustic, but not too bad if you hook your thumb over the top. That will give you more leverage. So at this point in the riff, have that thumb hooked over the top. See how my thumb goes from like behind the neck to do the slide, and then boom, it pops up to the top and gives me plenty of support to make that bend. All things considered, this bend does not take as much force as some other ones. Like, this is a relatively gentle bend. And when you're learning your bends, it's very important to listen to the pitch, and you want to know your target note. So as you're training this, hit that 5th string, 8th fret note before you do your bend. Hit that note, and then try bending up to it. Hit the note, bend up to it. So that's how you practice that bend. Eventually you'll get muscle memory. And while you should still listen to them, you don't really have time to respond to your pitch when you do quick riffs like this. It's mostly just muscle memory. You remember how hard to pull in order to get the bend to be on pitch. The note that finishes that phrase is back on the 5th string, 5th fret. So the whole thing is 3, 5, slide up to 7, and then 5 on the 5th string, bend the 7th, and down to the 5th again, 5th string. And then check this out. I know we're only halfway through the riff, but the second half of the riff is exactly like the first, except it's shifted down 1 string, or rather up 1 string. We use the term up on guitar because we're talking about in terms of pitch. It goes up to a higher string. Even though we're going closer to the center of the earth, we're going up a string to the 5th string, 3rd fret. Do the same thing. So it's 6th string, and then 5th string. And you will see this a ton as you develop as a guitarist, where you do something on one set of strings, and then you just shift over to a different set of strings. And if you know anything about like the Nashville system of naming chords using numbers, you know, this is the 1 chord, 5 chord, 4 chord. That's the chord progression that you're playing over. So it's 1 chord, 5 chord, and then 4 chord. So this movement from here to here is the movement you make when you go from a 1 chord to a 4 chord. So like Louie Louie, 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord. To go from the 1 to the 4, which is a very common sequence of chords in a rock and blues country chord progression, you just go from one set of strings to the next set of strings. So you'll see that pattern happen a lot, and boy, it makes things so much easier. If you were playing this riff on piano, you would have to learn a whole new pattern of notes, more or less, to play the second part. But on guitar, even though the guitar in some ways is a more complicated instrument, the notes are all kind of jumbled up. The fretboard just drives people insane compared to the piano in a lot of ways. One cool thing is there's this efficiency where you can just sometimes shift whole parts that you've worked on for hours and hours and days and weeks to perfect. And then once you get it, you just shift it to other strings and it sounds awesome. And now you're playing like in a different key or over a different chord. So this is one of those riffs where you kind of, it's 2 for the price of 1, basically. Any questions, Claire, on this one?
No, sir.
All right. All right. So before we look at the next riff, I just want to briefly tell you I'm running a sale right now for memberships. And so if you're interested in learning how to strum and sing, I've got a course on that. I also teach Travis picking, which sounds terrible on a distorted guitar, but really fun way to learn fingerstyle. It's probably the most common way of playing fingerstyle. So got a great course on that. Lots of in-depth song lessons where I teach all the principles that I'm teaching here. So, and we have a Q&A twice a month, which is basically like this, except a little bit smaller group. We usually have like 10 or 15 people at those Q&As. It's a wonderful community. And I usually teach a little mini workshop in those. And then the rest of it is just people asking questions, you know, like just anything that is troubling you or you're curious about playing guitar. So it's a little bit like having access to private lessons with me for a little period of time once every 2 weeks. So it's such a great value being a member of Heart Guitar. People love it. And right now it's 30% off. So $16.80 per month or $168 per year. With a year membership, you get 2 months free. So Would love to have you as a member if you want. The sale ends to tomorrow, Labor Day at midnight Pacific time. And then I also have a few openings for private lessons right now. So if you really want to take a deep dive in guitar, you're ready to get some one-on-one help with an experienced teacher. I've been teaching guitar for over 20 years now. I've taught thousands of people. Heartwood Guitar has taught, 21 million people to teach guitar on it now. It's amazing. I've got a few openings, and so shoot me an email if you're interested in private lessons. Would love to work with you one-on-one. Okay. Claire, any questions before I teach the Lester Flatt Run?
Yes, a comment and a question. First of all, Nicole backs you up that it is pretty fun to be a Heartwood Guitar member, and that the Travis pick lesson in particular is awesome. And I would add that since Nicole always attends the Q&As, that's another good reason to be a member because she has the best questions.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Q&As include plenty of Q&A, but also often mini lessons just like this.
Yeah. Cool.
Uh,
I'm laughing. I'm laughing for joy because Nicole is such a wonderful member of our Q&A community, and also laughing because she really sounds like a shill today. So I didn't think anyone from the membership would come to the Q&A. So anyway, your check is in the mail. Nicole, thank you very much.
Frank does have a question about
Yes.
the Already Gone riff. So he's asking about the circles on string 5 and string 4 on the
Yes.
riff.
Yes. That is a quirk of the specific style of tablature that I'm using in these sheets. You'll often see tablature with two different staves, tab on the bottom and standard notation, which a lot of people call piano music because that's where they see it used. It's actually everyone else besides us knuckleheaded guitarists' music. But anyway, they're two different staves of music, and that takes up too much room for a little handout like this. So I smush them together where you have both the tablature, just the numbers on the strings, but also rhythm information, and those circles mean a whole note, or if there's a little line below the stave, like in the Lester Flatt Run, that last chord that's played that has a big circle around it, see how there's a little line below it? That means a half note. So in Already Gone, it's a whole note, which means 4 beats. You let that ring for a full 4 beats. Anything else, Claire?
That's it.
Okay, so let's check out the Lester Flatt Run. We're going to switch to some old-time country. You might know Lester Flatt. I believe he played on the Beverly Hillbillies theme song, at least, growing up in suburban San Francisco. That was my introduction to bluegrass. Some of the rest of you are probably rolling your eyes right now, but you be you and I'll be me. I grew up on Huey Lewis and the News. So here's the Lester Flatt Run. I can still kind of play it though, right? You don't have to come from the country to play country music. And gosh, I love this riff. I use it all the time. It's probably the most famous country riff. And so let me teach it to you here. This is going to help you work on your hammer-ons. It's got a double hammer-on in here. Gotta love those double hammer-ons. Okay, so here's what we do. Start with the 6th string, 3rd fret, and then play the open 5th string. And by the way, we're doing some precise picking in this and also in Already Gone. Remember that technique. Put your palm gently on the 6th string bridge pin to orient that right hand. That'll help set you up for success. It may not help you pick accurately right now, but keep doing it, stick with it. It will be so helpful down the road once your hand starts going, oh, okay, I feel this here. Now I know where I am. I know when I'm going to pick this string, it's going to be the 5th string. It'll happen. Trust me. Don't pick like this, hovering above it. It's so hard to hit the right string that way. So hit that 6th string. Now hit the open 5th string And now I want you to do a hammer-on onto the first fret, 5th string. And if you've never done a hammer-on before, you basically wind up like this, keep your finger up above the fretboard, pick the open string, and then just slam it down as fast as you can onto the 1st fret. And it should sound like the Jaws theme. And the speed with which you hit that string will hopefully keep the string vibrating even though you momentarily damped it before it popped down onto the fretboard and fretted. If it's too slow, then you damp it. So you got to pop your finger down quick. It's actually not that much force to do a hammer-on, but if you start out by thinking like do it hard, it does kind of help you to do it quickly. Ultimately, you want to do it quickly and gently. I'm not pressing very hard at all. This would not hurt someone if I pressed their nose this hard. It's mostly just a quick movement. So you do that, and then you do another hammer-on with your middle finger on the 2nd fret. And you want each of those notes to get the same amount of time. So it's like that, and then hit the open 4th string, hit the 4th string 2nd fret, and now we're going to do a pull-off, the hammer-on's evil twin. With that, you pick the 2nd string, and then you pop your finger off the 4th string. Sorry, did I say 2nd string? I meant 2nd fret. And then you pop your finger off down toward the floor. The string pops out from under your finger and keeps ringing. You kind of like pick it again with your fretting hand. Now it's easy to rake the other strings. So once you get a good sound, try to do the pull off, but then have your finger land on the string below it. This is kind of a more advanced technique. You might occasionally just catch the strings, but it's not the end of the world. See, like you barely heard it that time. Especially because you're hitting the open 3rd string right after it. So that's what you do at the end, open 3rd string. So the whole thing is... And then grab the 6th string 3rd fret one more time, grab a G chord, and do a strum. And I play my G chords with my 3rd and 4th fingers, damping the 5th string with the underside of my finger. But if you want to do a G chord the way you like to do it, if it's different, go for it. So it's... And then, you know, you could grab the G chord like that or whatever. You probably have time to get there. Especially because you're just hitting the 6th string first. So you can kind of grab that note first and then put whatever finger you're going to use for the 1st string down after it. It's called building your chords. In general, it's best to not build your chords if you're just like strumming the guitar. But in parts like this, when you're playing different strings at different times, an arpeggio, a riff like this, building the chord can really take some of the pressure off your fretting hand by just fretting the note that's necessary and then grabbing the other notes in your own due time. So it's another little skill you can take home. Well, it's noon and I got through 3 riffs today. This is, like I said, the first time I've done this workshop. I need to remember to either talk less or, you know, I don't think there's any problem with having these other riffs on here. A lot of you are probably going to teach them to you on your own, or maybe I'll teach the rest of them sometime. So yeah, I hope that what you take home today are not just these riffs, but some general principles of playing guitar. Remember to slow down and simplify. Focus on one hand at a time. Keep in mind your left hand damping. Keep in mind how hard you're picking with riffs like Smoke on the Water. Nice and aggressive for that rock. We worked on our hammer-ons. Worked on our bends. Yeah, I hope you took home some good stuff. I would love it love, love, love if you shoot me an email right after we get off here and just let me know like one thing you found helpful today. And also if you can think of anything I could do to improve a workshop like this. I'd like to offer more of them in the future. I think it's just really fun for me to see new people and teach them. So yeah, let me know if there's anything I could do to improve this. And would love to have you as a member. Remember, the sale ends tomorrow. So now's a great time to get on board if you want to do that. Or if you want private lessons, shoot me an email and I can give you the details. Claire, anything else in the chat I should know about?
Yeah, do you have time to answer a very quick question?
Yeah.
And then there's actually two of them, and also folks who are thanking you for today's lesson.
Awesome. Great.
But
Yeah. Why don't we give people permission to leave without feeling rude if they want to right now? You know, if they have church to get to, don't let me get in their way. Or, you know, brunch with the grandkids or whatever. But yeah, let's stay on for a while and answer questions.
So, a side question, but about whether or not these techniques would work on a ukulele.
I don't play much ukulele.
I do notice there is one hanging behind you.
Lies. Yes. Yes. It's all a facade. No, I do play some ukulele, but only to the extent that the ukulele is a lot like the guitar. I teach a lot of kids ukulele. It's a good instrument to start on with kids because it's a little more finger friendly and easier to hold. Yes, a lot of these techniques do definitely apply to the ukulele. You don't hear people bending a ukulele very much, but you totally can. Bending strings. These riffs will... Smoke on the Water will work on a ukulele. It will sound different, especially if the fourth string of the ukulele is tuned an octave higher than it would be if you're playing guitar. Ukulele is basically a guitar capo 5, just the first 4 strings, just 1, 2, 3, and 4. But then 4 is an octave higher than it would be on the guitar. So it's, except this note is, it's up there instead of down here. It's that note. So, my dog has fleas. Those are the notes on the ukulele. So like Smoke on the Water could totally be played on the 4th and 3rd strings. So yeah, some of these riffs can be played on the ukulele without too much brain work, too much thinking, too much rearranging. Left hand damping, right hand damping. You usually don't play ukulele with a pick, and so while brushing technique is definitely appropriate with a ukulele too, you're going to be using different techniques than putting your palm on the bridge. If you're picking single notes, you're going to be using more finger style hand orientation, which often just like picking the strings is going to give your hand enough feedback to know what string you're hitting. You just plant before you play. That's a principle I teach in the Travis picking course. Or you can definitely rest your pinky lightly on the soundboard, and it can stay there. With fingerstyle is different than strumming and picking in that your hand is staying pretty motionless, and so it's not as big a deal if you plant your pinky a little bit. This is not good technique to use if you're picking with a guitar pick. Even though Kurt Cobain did it, Kurt Cobain was an incredible genius songwriter and great presence on stage and everything. Not the paragon of proper guitar technique. So, you know, you see him doing that in like the unplugged Nirvana footage. And you don't want to do that when you're picking. But when you're playing fingerstyle, it's fine. A lot of great fingerstylists do that. So I would do that if you're playing fingerstyle on ukulele. If you're just strumming, you don't need to use strumming hand brushing technique because you're not doing something super technical. If you are doing something more technical, yeah, plant your pinky or maybe brush it against the soundboard. And of course, slow down and simplify. Absolutely. That really applies to any instrument. And most instruments involve multiple appendages doing different things. And so a lot of it is like isolate the right hand, isolate the left hand. When you play piano, you learn the chords with the left hand, then you learn the melody with the right hand, then you bring the two together. So it's the same principle with any instrument, really. Okay, what's your other question, Claire?
I do have requests to hear the other riffs.
Oh, sure. Boogie Woogie Blues. I'm just playing what's written there in the tablature. This is a condensed version of like something you might play in, a 12-bar blues progression. Like, they call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday's just as bad. I'm snapping it up a little bit. They call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday's just as bad. Little palm muting. Wednesday's worse, and Thursday's also sad. So that's the Boogie Woogie Blues pattern. And then Satisfaction. Classic riff. You just played on guitar through a fuzz pedal. And then Sunshine of Your Love. Let me use my electric guitar on this. You can totally play it on acoustic, but it's kind of fun to play on electric. So, no! Sorry, wrong chord. Let me do that one more time. Should have practiced that before I taught it, huh? So yeah, that's Sunshine of Your Love. With Sunshine of Your Love, just FYI, those dots above the tablature over the chords are staccato marks, and you can really level up that riff by doing left hand damping after every chord. With the pointer finger damping the strings and fretting the sixth string, you can get a nice crisp damp. Just playing 3 strings there, everything else is damped. So that's probably the most challenging part of Sunshine of Your Love, is getting that chord to sound good. The most challenging part for me is remembering which chord it is, obviously. Okay. Any other questions, Claire?
No.
All right. How about 2 thank yous from it, and then we'll call it good.
Sure. You want me to thank you twice?
Yeah, thank me twice, please. Yeah, just kind of maybe once in French and once in English. No, I mean, did you say there were a few thank yous in the chat?
There are. Clive thanked you, and he enjoyed the session. Michael thanked you, and yeah, we have multiples there.
I'll read them on my own. Thank you, Claire. And I want to thank all of you for being here today. Thanks for spending this hour with me. And whether you become a member or not, or I teach you privately or not, I'm so happy to be your teacher, and feel free to stay on the mailing list and just soak up all the free stuff I offer. I just really like helping people have a great experience on guitar. So thank you for letting me be a part of your musical journey, and please stay in touch. And please send me that little bit of feedback if you would. Something you got out of the workshop, maybe something I could work on for next time. All right, take care, everyone.